I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of August 12th, 2025 to order. Would you please join the board and me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Scarpini, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Jane.
Here.
Trustee Manzo.
Present.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Nagel.
Here.
Trustee Reddy.
Here.
President Herman.
Here.
And we have a quorum. Trustee Tizinga will be participating via Zoom. Trustee Tizinga, would you please state your reason for remote participation? Trustee Tizinga, are you on Zoom? Okay, I can't see what he's saying.
Okay. We'll proceed. Trustee Tizinga, if you end up connecting, let us know. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. So good evening, everyone. I just want to make a few brief comments. First of all, I had the pleasure last week of attending our village's annual Night Out event. It was really a great event. This year's celebration was especially memorable because it returned to the scenic grounds of the sports corps and was hosted at our beautiful Bath and Tennis Club. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to our dedicated police, fire, and public works departments, and their hard work and their coordination was instrumental to making this event such a great success. From organizing vendors and a touch of truck to ensuring the grounds were safe, welcoming, and accessible, their efforts truly showcase the spirit of service and community. National Night Out is a valuable opportunity for our residents to connect with those who serve and protect us every day, and this year's event was certainly a shining example of that mission. So thank you once again to everyone who participated and helped to create such a fun and family-friendly evening for all. Speaking of the Bath and Tennis, the pool season is winding down and late season hours are now in effect. As we speak this week, the new climbing wall and the diving well and the surge pump improvement projects, that's the area between the diving well and the main pool that has been fenced off due to state of Illinois regulations. They finally allowed us to open that up, and our Public Works Department is working very hard to beautify that space, to put some grass in and make it available for lounge chairs and lounging. So these upgrades are certainly going to enhance our facilities and help build on the success of the season as we look forward to an even better year next year. And I may have mentioned it in the past, but I just want to remind everyone that we have this year, for the first time in the history of the Bath and Tennis Club, reached capacity membership, highest membership ever, including growing membership of resident families. We even have 75 non-resident families on a waiting list to get into the club. We hit capacity in 75 non-resident families waiting to get in. We don't have a waiting list for residents. They are welcome to get in anytime. There's a reason for this, and that's really because of the great work that our staff has done. I want to thank, in particular, Joe Mitchell and Art Segura and their teams, because it's not just their hard work, it's the ideas and the vitality they brought to it, from the parties to the new inflatables to the climbing wall. These are all ideas that came out of staff for the most part, and of course the execution's been fantastic. So it's the hot place to be, and I thank the team for doing that. Lastly, Brook Forest will unveil its new playground with a ribbon-cutting ceremony on August 18th, which coincides with the first day of school. This exciting addition will provide a vibrant and engaging space for Oak Brook's children to enjoy for many years to come. Many of you know that some of our citizens organized a fundraising campaign that raised quite a significant amount of money from members of our community for this playground, so very proud of that. I, unfortunately, myself will not be at the opening on the 18th because I'll be taking my daughter to college, but good luck to Brook Forest School and the opening of the playground. With that, I want to move on to the ADA transition plan, so I'm going to turn it over to Public Works Director O'Malley.
Thank you, President Herman. To comply with Title II of the American with Disabilities Act, the village has contracted Civil Tech Engineering, Inc. to provide the village with a comprehensive ADA transition plan. This plan will be used as a guideline to complement future shared use pathway and signal crossing improvements. I would like to introduce Lissa Sweeney from Civil Tech Engineering to provide the presentation.
Hello? Okay. Great. Well, thank you again for having us here this evening. My name's Lissa Sweeney. I'm with Civil Tech Engineering, and we were brought aboard by the village to assist in developing the public right-of-way ADA transition plan. So before diving in, I did want to just take a step back and touch on, what is an ADA transition plan? And that's essentially a plan for the removal of physical barriers to accessibility and transportation systems and facilities for people with disabilities. So this plan specifically focuses on the public right-of-way. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So why create this plan now? The American with Disabilities Act requires that municipalities designate an ADA coordinator, create a transition plan, as well as establish a grievance procedure for documenting and addressing accessibility barriers. And so there has been a recent emphasis throughout the region to develop these plans. There's also been training provided through the region, as well as guidance for making these plans more feasible for communities, because the documentation and kind of measurements and survey portion is fairly extensive. So combining that with the current initiative for the village to improve mobility for all residents, coordinating with the shared use path and the bike route master plan, the timing aligns to, again, kind of develop plans that improve mobility for everyone. And so as part of the ADA transition plan, there was a self-evaluation that was conducted. And so I'll get into that in just a few slides. But as part of that self-evaluation, the village really took a look at a number of different elements and features within the public right-of-way that affect accessibility. And then from that review is able to prioritize projects. And so that is one use of the transition plan, as it potentially is then integrated into future projects, as well as integrating these projects into capital improvement programs, coordinating with agencies, other developers, and monitoring the progress and revisiting the plan on a regular basis. This is our overall timeline. So we kicked off the planning process in fall of last year when we completed that self-evaluation survey, looking at all the different features and elements related to accessibility in the public right-of-way. We then held 2 stakeholder committee meetings to receive feedback on issues that residents and other organizations experience throughout the community. We had a public survey open for a couple of months, and then we also attended a pop-up meeting to, again, receive feedback from where there are issues for accessibility throughout the village, as well as what areas should be prioritized for future improvements. And then we developed the ADA transition plan and had a 30-day public comment period. So looking at the steps of an ADA transition plan, it includes formally designating an ADA coordinator, establishing a grievance procedure, establishing ADA internal standards, documenting that self-evaluation to identify barriers, as well as a plan on how to address those barriers, and providing notice to the public about ADA. This is a summary of those self-evaluation that was conducted late last year. And so you'll see pedestrian control signals, crosswalks, shared use paths and sidewalks, and curb ramps were primarily reviewed, along with transit, infrastructure, street furniture, pedestrian signs, and a review of driveways. Within that, we looked at kind of 3 general criteria: maneuverability, tactility, and visibility, and then kind of measured each of these different facility types by these various criteria. And so you can see then within the table that 20% of pedestrian control signals, all of those were noted as meeting all of the accessibility criteria, 67% of crosswalks, 35% of paths, sidewalks, 16% of curb ramps. And a lot of this is like curb ramps, for example, has actually 14 different measurements and features that need to be taken at each curb ramp. So it's, again, very difficult to get full compliance. So even having some curb ramps that meet all of these is fairly positive, but it does help us to identify where there are hot spots for future accessibility improvements. And so that brings us to this priority areas. Again, looking at these different features and locations throughout the village, you can see here that a few kind of hot spots or high priority areas come up. You can see it along 22nd Street, along Jory. We see it along 31st and 35th. And just noting in here too that a number of these locations, specifically along 22nd Street, do have upcoming projects that will address a number of these features because they are noted as in general areas of either safety concern or high traffic areas, and so they are noted for future improvements. So then we do need to provide, per the ADA requirements, an improvement schedule. And so with the schedule, it is noted that the goals, could be revisited and adjusted to reflect any shifting requirements in ADA compliance, budget constraints, construction feasibility. And with that being said, we had a improvement schedule on here that within 10 years, 80% of all pedestrian facility features in the public right-of-way within those priority areas are to be ADA compliant. And then within 20 years, 80% of all pedestrian facility features within the village are to be ADA compliant. And so that is just an overview of the transition plan and kind of those next steps. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, probably better directed towards our Tim O'Malley and Marilyn, Public Works and Finance. So this is you had a chart that shows that we're less than 50% compliant in a number of areas. This is pretty extensive. And to give you an example, we've started a project in the last couple of years to repave many of our bike paths, our extensive bike path system, which is kind of crumbling. And I understand from my discussions with our village manager that we have a lot of crushed stone paths, and some of those are pretty narrow along Joy Boulevard. I think our plan eventually is to pave everything, and I'm told that we need to do that to be ADA compliant. And so, that's just one example of the extensive ADA compliance work that we're going to need to be doing as you reflected here. My question really is that as we get through this plan and identify what has to be done and when it has to be done, will we get some rough budgeting numbers to go with that? Because this is something that we're going to need to be really baked into our long-term capital plans. I also recognize that some of the priority projects along 22nd Street may be IDOT funded.
That is correct. It's the heat map that was provided. Majority of those will be on the Illinois 56, which is all IDOT,
Okay.
At no cost to the village. And I'd just like to say, you mentioned, we preemptively started paving some of the bike paths in town to coordinate with this. And this plan will parallel the approved shared use bike path plan. So a lot of commonalities, but like Lisa said, there's a lot of parameters to follow as
But a
far
lot of
as-
what we're doing in the shared use bike plan is also going to be required to be ADA compliant.
Correct, yeah. And this will put us within the 80%.
I just want to make sure as we get through this and I recognize that IDOT's got a big role in this.
A far bigger role than the village.
I want to make sure that we as a board understand what our future funding obligations are going to be as we start to do long-term capital
Right.
planning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. The next item is, may I have a motion for the approval of the architectural plans in accordance with the plan development regulations approved by ordinance S-1546 for Oprah Commons.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Development Services Director Von Drossek, would you please introduce the presenters for this item?
Evening. David from Core States is here, and I will let him present the project, but I will give you a slight overview, is that this is Pad A of the plan development approved by Ordinance S-1568, which was the entire Oak Brook Commons. One of the conditions within that ordinance is that the board would review any architectural, four-sided architectural elements of any presented building.
Can I just, to clarify, my understanding is that the use that's being presented is permitted already under the plan. All that
correct.
we have the discretion to review is whether or not we agree with the architectural plans. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The board is at, the board can make the argument to send it to the Plan Development Commission if they so choose. That said, the original ordinance that approved this development included retail and restaurant in this Pad A location. The maps that had been included as part of all the ordinances always referred to the space as a restaurant, which may have led individuals to believe that it was only permitted to be a restaurant, but it is not.
So it is permitted to be a bank.
Either retail or restaurant, yes. And a bank would count as
But it is up to the
retail.
board's discretion here to
Always.
opine on whether or not they like the architecture. Okay,
correct.
thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks for that brief introduction. So I will get started. The project site, as stated before, is a vacant parcel located at Pad A within the Oak Brook Commons. And Wells Fargo intends to construct a retail bank with no exterior drive-throughs or walk-up ATMs. All of that will be on the interior in a 24-hour vestibule. The project scope includes civil, landscaping, irrigation, and then all the architectural, structural, mechanical, and fire disciplines. It's a little over 4,500 square foot building, single story, and all four sides coincide with all of the other buildings in the area in terms of the materials that we are planning to use. Those materials include stacked stone, brick tile, glazing, and Techwood accent panels, which are like a wooden cladding. We'll get to those on a later slide so you can see what they look like. And the rooftop mechanical units that we will be using for the site will be fully screened on the roof by parapet, so there will be no need for mechanical screening on this site. As stated previously, this was initially supposed to be a restaurant, but due to that, we actually will have less parking requirements than the restaurant, so there actually won't be as much of a need for parking in this area, which is good for the site. And then the existing parking spaces that are there will be reconfigured to add 9 additional parking spaces with an accessible sidewalk around the building entrance right in front of the main entry. The existing parking lot itself and the lighting will remain untouched. There was a trash enclosure initially proposed on the site plan, but due to the fact that this is a bank, Wells Fargo doesn't generate enough trash to utilize that trash enclosure. So this is just an overall of the site plan. As you can see, there's the building layout with the front entry on the east facade with the ADA accessible ramp. The new parking spaces, as you can see them on the east side and the south side. And there's also a rear egress door on the west facade of the building. This is just a quick plan view of our building. I'll start with the main entry. On the east facade, there is the vestibule there with the 24-hour vestibule with card reader access that will only be accessible to Wells Fargo customers. There are 2 ATMs and a night drop along with a gate there blocking off access after hours. There are a bunch of offices. There's we call it the living room, which is just a lounge type area to relax while you're being helped. Conference room, break room, tellers, all that. I will move on to the elevations. As you can see, these are the proposed elevations. We have the stacked stone on the front entry on pretty much all sides of the building, along with that thin stone and the wood cladding. We also are proposing some full height storefront on the front front entry as well as the rear of the building. The south elevation will not have any glazing just due to the security requirements that we need for a bank. You cannot have any visibility inside of that space. I think the mic went off. Oh, there we go. These are some proposed renderings of our site, both daytime and the nighttime. As you can see, there's a canopy with some exterior lighting there, providing visibility, along with only two signage locations, both on the long side of the building that just say Wells Fargo. And then these are the materials themselves. We have the manufactured brick tile, which you can see there is pretty thin. I believe it's like a 1 inch by, it varies in length actually. And then we have the manufactured stone there that's stacked and varies in size. That actually pops out a bit from the building itself to give it a little bit more accent. And then we have our ACM canopy panels along with the wood cladding, as you can see on the bottom left. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, now's the time.
Questions, discussion? I do know that this has been a space, a pad that's been marketed for some time, and I know it's been a struggle for Heinz. Are you with Heinz or are you with Wells Fargo?
I'm with Core States.
Of course, okay. I know it's been difficult for Heinz to find a suitable user for that space. I think we all would have originally have liked to see a retail sales tax generating use there. Nothing materialized. We also realized that parking has become a significant challenge in that development. So while we would have liked to have had a retail sales tax generating location like a restaurant, we know that it would have compounded an already difficult parking situation. So I think one of the nice things about your proposed use is that your daytime traffic is going to be nominal, but it's also going to be off-cycle with the evening restaurant traffic.
Correct. It'll also be a lot quicker with customers in and out. They won't be there for like an hour and a half. They'll be there for maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
I see
at
from
max.
your interior layout, you have quite a few offices, so I imagine this is going to be as much a retail banking location as a wealth management office.
I believe it's more on the retail end, correct.
Any questions, any concerns? Naveen?
Just a quick question. I wasn't there part of when the ordinance was done. Just out of curiosity, what % of these things have varied from what our original vision was? Because I know they comply with the retail and restaurant, but we converted some hotel into restaurants. I'm just trying to get a sense of my peers who was involved in this thing. They have a better idea as to what's the degree of variation we've had from the original kind of vision.
I don't have a percentage, but I would say that other than the hotel pad, obviously we had the medical office move. That location then pushed, and we had had some discussions previously with a higher density residential use then adjacent to that medical office that has been constructed. The apartment building obviously was shown as is. The Diamonds Direct, Alter Brewing, Fogo de Show were all constructed, Fogo de Show.
I think this.
We're all constructed.
I'm sorry to interrupt
as-
you.
No.
I think the significant deviation is essentially the trade-off of one of the condo buildings for the Northwestern. I think, and there's still a vacant pad for a residential building, there's still a vacant pad for an office headquarters. Hopefully they'll pull that off, but.
But this is not, I just want to make sure I understand. This is not a deviation. This was.
No, this use is not.
This is not, yeah, correct. It was
asking
zoned as either restaurant or retail.
I think what Trustee
Anything-
Jane was asking is just in general about the development.
Right, I know it complies with it, but originally, some people had understanding how we're gonna get a restaurant here, whatever. There was a perception.
I
We're
think
talking about a
that, I
perception.
think the biggest shock has been because the office tower hasn't been built yet and it was going to have a parking deck inside it.
Right.
We've ended up with at least in the interim, some parking challenges over there, which have been somewhat dealt with Heinz built extended a surface lot to the east, and that's helped quite a bit. Banzo?
Herman, can you hear me? The thing that I was happy to see is there was a big discussion when we first approved this about drive-throughs, and I'm very happy there's no drive-through. That would have probably, for me, would have been a deal breaker. I remember when they were having difficulty with the pads, and they wanted to bring CVS over, and instead we wound up with the Diamond Star. I think that worked out better for us. You make a good point with the parking. When Fogo first opened up, it was a parking war with Gibson and Fogo, and I think we have it under control, right, Chief? Not too much going on right now. But yeah, without the drive-through, I think, yeah, I wish you luck going through the process.
Trustee Teesinger, did I hear you jump in?
Yes, I'm sorry, my microphone has been touchy. I've been cycling between two different microphone options, but Tom Gilbert tells me now it's working.
Can I, before you jump in, since you weren't audible during roll call, just the clerk would like you to state your reason for remote attendance?
Oh, yes, I'm out of town on business.
Out of town on business, I think he said. Okay, go ahead.
Lost him again.
Trustee Teesinger, are you there? Okay, well, he cut out again, so I'm going to move. Any other discussion? All right, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Jane.
Yes.
Trustee Manzo.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Nagel. Yes. Trustee Reddy.
Yes.
Trustee Teezinga.
Okay, motion carries. So those two present, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pass. That motion carries. So those two presentations are actually part of the opening comments, so now we move on to our public comment section. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment tonight? Natasha?
No.
Okay, no one signed up for public comment. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. The first is the Special Board of Trustees meeting minutes of July 23rd, 2025. I'm going to ask for a motion and a second, and then I want to just kind of kick off the discussion with a procedural note. So may I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from the Special Board of Trustees meeting of July 23rd, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
So before I ask for discussion, and I know normally there's not much discussion on the minutes, but I want to make an observation. I know that the minutes, as they were originally published in the packet, and those packets are, I think, are released on Thursdays or Fridays to the board, to the public as well. Many of us read it right when it comes out. Trustee Jane had requested a modification to some comments he made in the minutes, and those changes were made. So I think the first thing is that our board members need to know that what they might have looked at, or the public originally, was changed. But the broader point I want to make is really about the broader discussion about minutes and what they're supposed to represent. This has been debated in the village for some time. I know our village attorney has talked about this for some time. Village clerk Scarpaniti and I have talked about this. And the question really is, what are minutes supposed to reflect these days, especially when an organization like the Village Board of Trustees has their meetings fully videotaped and available on demand to the public. So yes, we had a very lengthy meeting at our last Special Board of Trustees meeting. It resulted in preparation by our staff of 14 pages of minutes. Pretty thorough, but there's no question that anyone could look at this and say, what I might want in the minutes is not in there. And that can, if we're going to constantly be adjusting the minutes because comments that you wanted to be in there are not in there, you can imagine how out of control the process can get. According to our village attorney, and this is not just today, this is a longstanding conversation, and according to our village clerk, who has been to several seminars and with other clerks presented by municipal attorneys, minutes really are intended to be a brief recitation of the agenda items, the votes, and maybe the people who spoke. So for example, if you have public comment, all we really need to be saying is, these are the list of the people that spoke in public comment. I'm going to suggest that our village attorney and the clerk and I and our village manager have a discussion about the appropriate procedure going forward so that we don't get into this trap where we're constantly chasing our tail, with the minutes, when in fact everything is available online. So anyway, with that, is there any discussion about the minutes?
Can I make a comment?
Please, go ahead.
since I requested the thing is, I totally agree with you, we need to think, but we need to be consistent. So if I look at the comments that was there, the essence, even if it's a one sentence, it should speak to the essence of what the person spoke, so that the people have some clue as to what they are looking for or they can reach out to. So if we want to have the procedure, that should be consistent across every aspect of it and everybody's comment. And I did not, this is the second time I've raised this issue, and I didn't see that consistency. And if somebody else can check it out, and some of them were more detailed, some of them were there. I found mine was totally inconsistent with what the theme was, so I raised that issue.
And your point is, I think, exactly, everyone's going to have a different view about
Yeah.
the editorial content of it, right? It becomes editorialized, and I think we have to get away from that and just be matter of fact. When we get to trustee comments, I think, trustee Jane spoke, trustee Mansell spoke, and, like I said, these meetings are fully available on tape. So,
Mr. President?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're talking about public session, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we've had discussion in the past, but it's always been about closed session, because obviously that's not open to the public, and everybody wants to make sure that their comments are stated properly. But with public session, there's a tape. And that's one of the things that, I've looked at the minutes in public section. There's a number of statements I make that are not included in the minutes. I don't concern myself too much with it because the residents can just click onto the tape and see for themselves exactly what was said in that meeting. You can't do that in closed session, but in the public session, you can. But, that being said, the procedure that I always remember was if somebody wanted the minutes to reflect something, usually it would close, but they would come to the meeting and ask for a deferral, or they would ask for a friendly amendment.
Well, and yes, so that's exactly what this process is, right? We have the minutes are up for vote. They're prepared by the clerk's office. They're put in the agenda packet for everyone to review, and they're coming to the board now for approval. So this is certainly the point. If there's a board member that wishes to have something changed to the minutes or comment, this is the point to do it. My point is that to avoid the issues we were just talking about, we need to have kind of a procedure reset to talk about what these should be and what they shouldn't be. Because I can tell you, 14 pages, everyone's going to have a different read on what this should be. The other thing is that this took an enormous amount of staff time to prepare. And, the staff always has other things to do too. So, this is not a transparency issue because, as you said, we are incredibly transparent, having everything videotaped. So, okay, if there's no other discussion, may I have a roll call vote on the approval of the minutes? Or actually, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, motion carries. Next item is the motion for the approval of the minutes from the executive session of the Board of Trustees of June 10th, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any objections? Okay, motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. Would you please direct your attention to the screen where the consent agenda is displayed? Does any member wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Trustee Nagel.
6A, 6 and 6A, 10.
6A6 and 6A7. Oh, 6A10, I'm sorry. Okay, any other extractions? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the two extractions and authorize expenditures as presented or amended?
So, second.
Okay, Clerk Scarpanidi, you may have a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Manzo.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Nagel.
Yes.
Trustee Reddy.
Yes.
Trustee Jane.
Yes.
Trustee Tazinga.
Okay, motion carries. Trustee Nagel, would you please address your extractions?
I guess starting with 6, it's $26,000, but then there's just one line, engineering services, $24,000 for a 1-month period that annualizes out to $300,000. I know it's Jamie, but who's responsible, the direct line for this bill?
This reflects the total for both the general services for the 3 days a week that the village has in addition to the residential reviews. So half of it is billed out and paid back to the village as part of that. So the village is only truly paying out probably half of the 26. And I'm sorry, I didn't know that you had a question on this. I would have brought the invoice with me.
No, I guess the invoice, whenever I see just an invoice, legal, 20,000, engineering, 24,000.
No, the
without
ECA
it- Without
invoices.
it breaking down.
Right. It is broken out.
Raises
in-
a lot of red flags.
Of course, and the EZA invoices are always very detailed as to exactly when it is general services, so services for the villages, or as I said, billed through to the residents. But the way that we process the invoice, we do the monthly in one.
And then who's responsible, or who's in charge of the HVAC, this invoice, number 10?
That's Public Works.
And just for someone that's done a lot of HVAC work, it's 37 grand. And the field evaluation's 10 grand, preliminary design 23, preliminary design meeting 4,000. It seems 37,000, we don't have a design, we don't have anything. What exactly is, I know we walked through the building before, is this for the boilers?
Yeah, it's the village-wide HVAC, it's AC 4.5 and 7.8, and then his Heritage Center. But I believe this may be two billing estimates because we only had the one meeting.
Is there an estimate? I'm always a little cautious when I see preliminary design, 23,000.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry. So this is a bill payments, but this is all pursuant to work that's been bid out, right?
This was a $196,000 award at the 311 board for the HVAC contractor.
So this is an approval for payment against a project that was bid out and approved by the board already, correct? Okay.
Right, so I understand that, so I'm just, how much is left of the design?
I apologize, I would have to have that looked at.
Okay.
And just to refresh my recollection, are they replacing boilers or updating them?
It's to come up with a comprehensive plan, given the age of the buildings and possible relocation, and then a comparable size unit, upgrading the vent, the Plimo vent systems.
So AC4 and AC5 are the units that work the central part of the building, is that correct?
Correct, it's admin and.
They've been kept together with shoestring and bubble gum for the last several years.
And
A lot of failures, interrupting the staff stay. And so it's been a plan to replace those for several years. I know you've been trying, there's been budgetary constraints, so those replacements have been postponed for several years. We finally got a program to get them replaced. We finally got the budget and you replace it.
Right.
They went out for bid. The bid work's been approved, I guess, for Kluber, and now we're going through that process?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
You're going to need a motion and a second.
All right,
Let's
so-
do one at a time, though.
All right, so may I have a motion first to approve item 6A6 on the consent agenda?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Martin.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Nagel.
Trustee Nagel.
Yes.
Trustee Reddy.
Trustee Reddy.
It's an echo. Trustee Jane.
Trustee Jane.
Trustee Manzo.
Yes.
Trustee Tsinga, are you here?
Are you here? Yes, I vote yes. I vote yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion carries. Now may I have a motion for the approval of consent agenda item 6A10?
So moved.
Second.
All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Nagel.
Yes.
Trustee Reddy.
Yes.
Trustee Trustee Jane.
Yes.
Trustee Manzo.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Tsinga.
Trustee Tsinga. Yes.
Motion carries. Is that feedback coming maybe from trustee Tzinga? Ed, we're getting some feedback in the room. Maybe if you could mute yourself until you wish to speak.
You can monitor it. Am I producing feedback now?
We're getting an echo.
No, not now. We're good now. Whatever you did is fine. Thank you. Okay, moving on to active business. The first item is ordinance S-1731, an ordinance approving the annexation of certain territory to the Village of Oak Brook, DuPage and Cook Counties, Illinois, 15 West 321 Roosevelt Road, Elmhurst, Illinois, 60126, and 1 South 105 York Road, Elmhurst, Illinois, 60126. May I have a motion for the approval of ordinance S-1731?
Second.
Development Services Director Vondrasek, would you please present this ordinance?
In April of this year, the village purchased a parcel of property, and there's a map of it. After that purchase, that portion of the property is actually outside of the municipal boundaries. This action is just to, your approval to allow us to record the necessary documents to bring it into. And with the village attorney's guidance, all of the necessary taxing agencies that'll be impacted by that have been informed of the move. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. If not, just need approval of this ordinance.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No, I just wanted to make a comment. I think this was a great thing we did together, and I think it's exciting that we are executing on a strategy and plan we had.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Reddy.
Yes.
Trustee Jane.
Yes.
Trustee Manzo.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Nagel.
Yes.
Trustee Tazinga.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Nagel, would you please
I'll excuse
excuse yourself for the next item? Ordinance G-1276, an ordinance amending the Village of Oak Brook Code of Ordinances as amended Title IV, Chapter 1, Section 8A, to increase the number of authorized Class B liquor licenses by 1 to 20 for Lifetime Fitness. May I have a motion for the approval of ordinance G-1276?
Second.
Okay, so Lifetime Fitness Center in Oak Brook currently holds a Class A1 liquor license. They are requesting a second Class B license, which will allow them to sell prepackaged liquor in its original packaging for consumption off premises. Lifetime Oak Brook has submitted the required application and has paid the mandatory fee to acquire a Class B liquor license. Discussion.
Do we have an understanding of,
Yeah, so I'll open the discussion. I'm not, listen, Lifetime Fitness is a wonderful place. I was just there an hour and a half ago. And it's been a wonderful addition to Oak Brook. I have a hard time understanding why we want to go down the road of allowing people to buy liquor and walk out of there with it. My personal opinion is it's not an appropriate use for that. But that's my opinion, so.
I mean, I understand having alcohol on the premises, but I just can't figure out what it is and where they're selling this out of with
There's a Binny's across the street.
with the intent. Yeah, I'm just struggling to understand.
Okay, is there anyone here from Lifetime? No representative from Lifetime? Okay. Yeah, I struggle with this. Any
I
discussion?
agree with what both of you have said, totally.
Any other discussion? Trustee Tazinga?
I agree. It seems like a curious proposal. Everybody knows alcohol is not good for you. Have it there, but why be a sales point to take it off premises? Doesn't make any sense to me.
No, we'll vote. Take a vote. They had an opportunity to be here. So, okay, go ahead, Trustee Manzo.
Yeah, this is kind of the slippery slope I talked about years ago, when we started opening up the liquor license to non-traditional uses, nail salons, hair salons, et cetera. And then everybody, it becomes somewhat of a feeding frenzy, and everybody wants a liquor license. So we just need to be careful with this, because we kind of created this monster here where everybody, even non-traditional, normally you get at restaurants and whatnot, now you're having other venues looking for liquor license, which I think it exposes us to some degree, liability-wise. I mean, I don't know if we want to defer this item so we could have the representative or just vote on it, or?
We already have a liquor license.
Yeah,
They have one.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm voting no.
I would urge us to take the vote.
They have a liquor license for on-premise. This is to take it off.
Yep. Roll call vote.
Trustee Jane.
No.
Trustee Manzo.
No.
Trustee Martin.
No.
Trustee Nagel. Oh, never mind. Trustee Reddy.
No.
Trustee Tazinga.
No.
Okay, motion fails. Trustee Nagel, if you join us again? Okay, while Trustee Nagel's walking down, this next item is a discussion-only item, and it concerns the notion of implementing a municipal grocery retailer's occupation tax and a municipal grocery service occupation tax in the village of Oak Brook, Illinois. So I think I'll kick off this discussion with some background. So as most of us all know, the sales tax rate in Oak Brook is 7.5%, probably the lowest sales tax rate of any municipality in the area. One of our claims to fame, and I think one of the things that helps drive retail business and customers to Oak Brook. Of that 7.5%, 1.5% comes back to the village of Oak Brook. 1% comes back as a straight sales tax that goes into our general fund, and 0.5% comes back as something called a non-home rule tax, which goes into our infrastructure fund for capital improvements throughout the village. There is historically been a different tax that applies to groceries, also to drugs and medical devices, but for this purpose of this discussion, to groceries, and that's a 1% tax, just 1% on pure groceries, that is also been collected by the state and then remitted by the state to the municipalities. Our governor, in his infinite wisdom, decided that it would be a good thing if the state took away that tax, or at least took away their collection of that tax, and imposed the burden of reimposing the tax on the municipalities, in which case the state would still collect it. I'm going to call it out for what it was. It's a political stunt by the state, by the governor. It makes no sense unless you frame it in a political context. If he was really concerned about the impact of taxes on people who struggle the most, there were other options available, such as the state gas tax, which also impacts everyone. But that would have had an impact on the state fiscal situation. By removing the tax and telling the municipalities they have to reimpose it, all it is doing is impacting the municipalities. This, in an environment where we're constantly facing increasing fiscal pressures because of what the state legislator is doing, most recently embodied by the movement in the state legislature to repeal what's known as the Tier 2 pension scheme, where I think for people who, municipal employees, public safety employees hired after, I think, 2010, they get still a generous pension, but not quite as generous as what it was once. That is also driving the costs up. And you just saw the governor pass a rollback of Tier 2 in the city of Chicago, which is going to be devastating to their already devastating financial affairs. So that's a lot of background, but what we've been essentially put into a position by the state that in order to maintain the 1% tax that we've already had, the municipalities have to reimpose the tax, which is, we're just here to discuss it tonight, but we'll probably bring it back at the next meeting for a vote if we're going to reimpose it. The Illinois Municipal League and the DuPage Managers Mayor Conference have been very much behind education and resources on this topic. They have collected data as to the municipalities that are moving forward to reimplement it. To date, I think something like close to 450 to 500 municipalities, probably close to 40% of the municipalities in the state have already reimplemented it. Most all of our surrounding communities have reimplemented it. To give you some fiscal context of what this means to Oak Brook, we don't know exactly to the dollar what the impact is of not having this tax because the state doesn't break it out. I can tell you that most of our grocery tax probably comes from Costco, and we would estimate that it represents close to $1 million of our annual revenues. So it's a big deal. So here we are. My position is going to be we need to do what everyone else is doing that the state has forced us to do, and that is act to make sure we retain and maintain the tax we've always had. Comments? Trustee Melissa.
I tried to do a little bit of research around this, but my question was if we or any municipality reinstates the tax, who's responsible for collecting and auditing? Is it the State Department of Revenue still
Still the
responsible?
state?
Yeah.
So the same way, we don't have to increase personnel or audit our businesses or anything like that if we reinstitute it locally?
And so what you're referring to is if we were to implement a local food and beverage tax, that would be on us to collect and administer?
Correct.
But this would still be a state collected tax?
Still go through the exact same process as before. It's just whether or not we get to keep the 1%.
Just means the governor can go around and say, I got rid of this onerous tax.
Not necessarily exactly. It will be the state, but it will come with the non-home rule imposed tax, not with.
Like our 0.5% tax. Right, but it's still
Which is
state
fine.
collected,
Yeah,
though.
but we as a
Collected.
municipality aren't responsible for auditing our businesses, collecting
No.
the tax directly from the businesses, et cetera. It will still flow through the same process as it has before. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, any comment or discussion for the discussion? All right, we just wanted to get this out for discussion so everyone could digest the topic. There's a lot of data out there. If you're interested, trustees from the IML and DMMC, happy to get any of that to you if you'd like, and we'll probably bring this back for a vote at the next board meeting. So,
Does Trustee Tazinga?
Trustee Tazinga, any comments?
Yes, thank you, President Herman, for your excellent summary. I think you've outlined the issues very accurately and appreciate the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Well, after a 4-hour board meeting last time, we're wrapping up a much shorter meeting now, so I'll invite the trustees to individually address the public. You'll each have 2 minutes. Trustee Reddy, would you please begin?
Thank you, President Herman. Mindful Meditation Yoga Center of Naperville is pleased to offer a free yoga training session at the Oak Brook Bath and Tennis Banquet Hall on the first Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. We warmly welcome everyone to take advantage of these complimentary sessions and experience the benefit of yoga. Last week, I had the privilege of attending the National Night Out, so thoughtfully and efficiently organized by our Oak Brook Police Department. My heartfelt congratulations to Chief Strokis and the entire police department for their dedication and service. We are truly fortunate to have such committed officers keeping our community safe. On September 14th, we'll be hosting the International Festival of Oak Brook. Last year's event was a tremendous success, drawing over 400 attendees, from children to seniors, with vibrant cultural showcases, delicious food, lively music, and colorful costumes from around the world. This year, we anticipate an even larger turnout and an even more memorable celebration. We would be honored to have you join us in experiencing the rich cultural diversity of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Martin.
I just wanted to remind everyone of a couple things. As the summer season winds down at the Bath and Tennis, some of us may have used the pool more this summer than tennis, but there's a great event happening Friday night, tennis and tapas, both for members and non-members, different rates. So take a look at that. And if you can't find the information, email me or Director Segura, and we'll be able to get that to you if you're a non-member. I did want to take a minute to just talk about returning to school. The kids are returning to school. I'm returning to school as a professor. And I just wanted to really encourage everybody to think about reading for yourself, think about reading for your family. I read a really interesting New York Times article recently that we're reading fewer and fewer full books. We're reading in digital snippets, and it's really having a significant impact on our brain and our critical thinking skills. Less than half of Americans read a single book in 2023. So this is an epidemic that's starting to happen in the way that we consume information. Long-form literacy is learned. It's hard. It rewires your brain in really, really important ways. And as a professor, I can tell you it's a skill that's difficult to get, and sometimes that makes people shy away from it, but it's a really, really important one. Being able to connect the dots from lots of different pieces of information is incredibly important. And when we're reading in these little digital pieces, we're not able to do that in the same way. So I just encourage you, visit our library. Our library is a fantastic place. Find a book on a topic that interests you and spend some time really engaging with long-form literacy, and enjoy the school year.
Thank you. Trustee Manzo,
Thank you.
you're thinking about the next book you're going to read, right?
No, no. First, I think I forgot to comment on what a great job the staff did with the Taste of Oak Brook. We had all the news channels there. Actually, NBC came twice. They came before we opened, and then they came again while we were open. Did a real nice interview with the chairman of the hotel committee, Dick Turner. So just wanted to thank everybody for another very successful taste. We're going to have to do a little bit even better next year. It's the 200th anniversary, so we're going to have to do even more with fireworks and drones. Before I came onto this board, I was spending my days fighting Cook County corruption. And one of the gentlemen that I did some opposition research on was a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Tobolsky. And the reason I bring him up is the wheels of justice move slow, but they move. And I do remember getting a front page story on Mr. Tobolsky, who was also the mayor of McCook. I think they had 200 residents, and he had like 17 or 20 employees that were family members employed in McCook, which is quite astonishing. So he got 4 years because he cooperated. He should have gotten more. But the fact is that unfortunately in Illinois, government corruption is everywhere. It's at the highest level at the state, it's at the county, it's at the municipalities, and we have to stand strong and we have to fight it. Sometimes it's a difficult fight, many times it's a difficult fight, but it's a fight that it must be taken on in order to keep our communities beautiful and a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jane?
Thanks, President Urban. Congratulations on the National Night Out. That was one thing that, as part of Accenture, we used to really support every year. And I used to be very excited. I missed this year because I was out of the country, but really I've seen a lot of pictures and I've heard from a lot of people, so congratulations. It was really well done. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Nagel?
No comment, thanks.
Trustee Tizinga, any comments you'd like to make?
No comment, thank you.
All right. I know that Trustee Manzo referenced all the news channels covering Taste of Oak Brook. Some of you may have seen the segment that CBS Channel 2 did on interviewing Chief Strokas on the new drone as a first responder that was just aired about a week ago. Tomorrow, ABC 7 News is going to be out here interviewing Chief Strokas and myself for a similar story, I believe. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to air, but obviously this drone is not only making huge successes for us on crime fighting in Oak Brook, but the word's getting out. So, okay, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn to a closed session for the purpose of discussing 1, minutes of meetings lawfully closed under this Act, 2, to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, or performance of a specific employee or employees of the village pursuant to Sections 2C21, 2C1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act, respectively. May I have such a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Clerk Scapanid, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Jane?
Yes.
Trustee Manzo?
Yes.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Nagel?
Yes.
Trustee Reddy? Yes. Trustee Tizinga?
Okay, motion carries. We're going to adjourn to closed session, and then we're going to adjourn the open session from the upstairs conference room. Thank you.